Very good evening. I first thank Consulate General of India, Sandeep ji, and Dr. Subruto Gangopadhyay ji, who is the Sutradhara of this IHR, and Mary ji, Jyoti ji, and Prasad Garu, and all who are present here today. This year, 2024, is a remarkable, I think, milestone in the history that Ram Mandir was inaugurated somewhere in the January. That was very auspicious occasion. But always, especially last after colonial era, a doubt is there whether Rama ever existed in history or it's just हमारी आस्था में. तो केवल आस्था में भी नहीं है, इतिहास में भी राम है. वो कैसे हैं? तो इसको हम आज एक्सप्लोर करते हैं. I hope you all have heard about when Rama existed. It is in Treta Yuga. So never ever how to date it, because history can't be explored just in imagination. It must have a chronological foundation. Without that, a historicity cannot be established. Even if you, after 1,000 years, if you forgot your birthday, then naturally you may also be a mythical person after 1,000 years. Okay. So that's why the chronology is the foundation for the history. The Yuga, because Treta Yuga, first we must understand what is Yuga. It's not like once upon a time dinosaurs existed, when they died up, then some new era has been commenced or something. No, it's not like that. We were very advanced civilization from Vedic era onwards. Even today, just 2 days back, we have celebrated Sri Krishna's birthday. How do we remember that he was born in Shravana Krishna Ashtami? After another few days, we are going to celebrate birthday of Ganesha, Bhadrapada Shukla Chaturthi. It means we used an advanced lunisolar calendar from the Vedic era. So we had a calendar. So what was that calendar? It was actually Yuga calendar during the Rigvedic era. Not only Rigvedic, from there to till Mahabharata era, we followed Yugas only. That's why whenever we talk about Mahabharata and beyond, we have only dates in Yugas. So it's actually Yuga was a cycle in a calendar. Originally in Rigvedic era, a Yuga had only 5 years, a set of 5 years. So every 5 years the calendar used to change. Like today 24, after 4-5 months then 2025, so your calendar is changing. But in Vedic era, from the beginning onwards, we used to change a calendar every 5 years, because within a 5 years, you can reconcile lunar year, solar year. Because lunar year is only 354 days, solar year is 365 days, you are short of 11 days every year. So you have to, how to account for every 2.5 years, you intercalate one lunar month. And end of 5th year, you intercalate one more lunar month. So your this lunisolar calendar is reconciled. So this 5 year was then Yuga, okay? But when we are intercalating 30 days every after 2.5 years, by the time we reach 20 years, we used to accumulate 15 days extra, okay? That's why what we used to do at the end of 20th year, we used to intercalate only half month instead of full month. So that's why the 20-year cycle also important. It means 5, 5, 5, 5, 4 cycles, 4 yugas. This is how a yuga and a concept of Chatur Yuga began. Okay. So this is the calendar cycle. It has nothing to do with any supernatural event or a big flood or some kind of a planetary position has to change in lakhs of years, thousands of years. That I will explain you to how the astronomical cycles became lakhs of years. That's why Generally, Treta Yuga means we think that somewhere 9 lakhs years old, or maybe some 15 lakhs or 16 lakh year. How? Because it is scientifically difficult, and we don't have so much of history also to explain how you have so many lakhs of years of history. Okay. So Yuga is a calendar cycle. 20-year cycle also explained why a 20-year cycle was also important. So 4 yugas. And the second Yuga was named as the Treta Yuga. First Yuga is the Krita Yuga, second is Treta, third is Dwapara, and fourth is the Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga used to have only 15 days intercalation in the last 5th year. So that Ardhamasa intercalation was there, half month intercalation during the Vedic period. Later we abandoned that one because it was not so convenient. Because you used to start new moon day, end up with the full moon day, then you start from the full moon day, then end up after 20th on the new moon day. So 20 years used to follow Amanta, means the new moon calendar. Another 20 years you have to follow Purnimanta calendar, means a full moon calendar, full moon to full moon, that universe. That was not so convenient later. So this is how what I have explained. The 4 yugas are actually 4 cycles. And we had traditionally we followed this Yuga calendar starting from the Vedic era to till Mahabharata era. That's why even today we say Kali Yuga is continuing. Why Kali Yuga is still continuing, that I am going to explain. So certain unsolved puzzles. If you see, we have dates also. Like Mayasura, he was writing a Surya Sidhhantha. I don't know whether you have heard of Surya Sidhhantha. It's the most an advanced astronomical text written by an Indian astronomer called Mayasura. He says he is writing this book at the end of the Krita Yuga. Now how you are going to date him? Either the modern scholars don't bother about it, maybe some fictitious guy, somebody has just imagined, but it's not true. Since we used to follow a Yuga calendar, there is a date. Mayasura wrote Surya Sidhhantha at the end of Krita Yuga. That is 28th Krita Yuga. Now we have to work out what is the chronology. Then Bharata Muni, Bharata Natya Shastra. I hope all of you are aware of this Natya Shastra. What he is writing in the beginning, he is saying, I am writing this book in the Treta Yuga of 7th Manvantara, 28th Treta Yuga. That's why Ramayana refers to Matanga Muni. Matanga Muni was a contemporary of Ramayana who was close to Sringeri. There is a hill, is there, the Matanga Muni hill. So Matanga Muni refers to Bharata. So Bharata lived before Ramayana era. This is how we can chronologically correlate and establish the timelines. Then Sri Rama flourished in the last century of the Treta Yuga. Now, once we can decipher this or reconstruct this Yuga calendar, then we can get a precise timeline. Then we can corroborate with the other scientific evidences. That's what I am going to explain it today. Then it is well known to us at the end of Dwapara Yuga, in the beginning of Kali Yuga, Mahabharata war took place. So we have so many dates, ancient dates given in the Yuga calendar. After that we have a Yudhishthira Samvat, then we have a Kali Yuga, then we have a Vikramaditya era, Shaka era, that was continuing. But if we go back before Mahabharata era, we have dates only in Yuga calendar. So the onus is on us to reconstruct scientifically the Yuga calendar, then you will get a perfect timeline. Okay. So presently the 20th Kali Yuga is in progress. That Mayasura, because he was writing Surya Sidhhantha at the end of 28th Krita Yuga, it means after that Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga began. So if we get the date of Mayasura, then we can get the date of beginning of Treta Yuga. Okay, because he was writing at the end. After that Treta Yuga began. So for that there is a shloka in Surya Sidhhantha. How many have ever tried astronomy softwares? Because nowadays you lot of simulations, software background people will understand. You can simulate planetary positions backwards when you do, and yes, it's not just simple mathematical simulation. You have to account for the time correction, delta t correction, using various algorithms. But NASA has developed a wonderful algorithm called JPL horizons. That is the most accurate algorithm presently. You have to use that. What Mayasura is saying, Asmin Krita Yugasyante, at the end of this 28th Krita Yuga, Sarve Madhyagata Graha, he is actually referring to a Meshado Tulyatamita, a conjunction of all planets when Sun is in the first degree of Aries. Okay? 360 degrees, any degree, a Sun, every day 1 degree, if you can take into that account. Sun has to be in the first degree. What is the periodicity for this conjunction of all five planets? Average once in a 400 years. Okay. Conjunction means all of planets are there. So how to identify conjunction? In 30 degrees, because 360 divided by 12 is 30. All planets have to be within the 30 degrees, one sign, one Rashi, 30 degrees, then only that qualifies as a conjunction. Otherwise, planets are there every day, they even 90 degree or 120 degree conjunctions, then it is not a conjunction at all. So this within 30 degrees, all planets, Sun, Moon and 5 planets are coming together. Then it's the rarest event, rarest astronomical event. So he is referring to that, he has witnessed that. Can we simulate it? So what I did, going back to the very ice ages, it is totally unscientific because civilizational existence is impossible. What is ice age? Only winter, either harsh winter, mild winter, it's only winter. All 12 months is a winter season. So no rains, so agrarian society can't survive, or even you can't invent agriculture today. So, but we have to first, with reference to Europe, because Europe experienced little longer glacial period than the way India presently has, because the people closer to the equator. And for India, we have to see when southwest monsoon became regular. That is the best way to find out when ice age ended in the Indian peninsula. So modern estimates and all, it goes back to 16,000 to 18,000 BC, because that was the time when sea level started rising. Till then, it was almost, the sea level was highly, maybe minor fluctuation otherwise. Thereafter, the ice age ended. Generally, the Holocene, what the Europe considers, they consider it somewhere 10,000 to 11,000 BC, because they think that only after younger Dryas only some civilizational existence is there. But that's actually a mini ice age came into. Then later, after 700, 800 years later, then again it became normal. But the civilizational existence is actually even beyond the mini ice age. Okay, but that goes back to somewhere maximum 13,000-14,000 BC, or even genetic studies also suggest that. For this, then what I did, 16,000 BC to 16,000 BC and 2,000, 18,000 years. Okay, now every 400 years one conjunction. So how many conjunctions took place in last 20,000 years? 40, 50 conjunction. Then you shortlist how many conjunctions took place when Sun was in first degree of Aries. I found only one conjunction qualifies, and the positions given, if this is the conjunction took place 22nd February 6778 BCE, exactly 8,800 years before from today. So based on this date, why he has taken this date? Because he wanted to use this position, because if you see, first degree is Sun, 13 degrees, 3 planets eastern side and 3 planets in the western side. And the 13 degrees, the difference has been explained in the Surya Sidhhantha also. So this conjunction perfectly, because this is the only one conjunction took place when sun was in first degree of Aries. And naturally, if moon is conjuncting, it means it's a new moon day. When sun and moon conjunct together, it's a new moon day. So it's a first day of Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. Aries, you are there. If sun is in the Aries, it's a Chaitra month. So this what I have to, because this shloka can't be, you can do whatever the pranayama, but you can do only one translation only. This can't be mistranslated or translated differently. It's the pure astronomical observation. So this shloka becomes a perfect anchor point in the Yuga chronology whenever you are arriving at Yuga chronology. So this is the time when, and actually if it is this conjunction gives us that you cannot, can you observe this without a mathematical knowledge? You need a spherical trigonometry understanding to observe this, because all 5 planets sun are not visible. Go in the evening, in the night you can see. No. What you have to do, you have to observe before the sunrise what is the planetary position, and after the sunset. Then you mathematically calculate their positions. Means spherical trigonometry developed at an advanced level when Mayasura existed. So who was the father of trigonometry? The Hipparchus. But since we don't know the timeline, so we think we and all of us, we go and teach in the schools and colleges that Hipparchus was the father of trigonometry. He is actually, the Surya Sidhhantha is actually spherical trigonometry. Used sines, cosines, and I don't know what kind of a very advanced spherical trigonometry he practiced. That's why he could observe this conjunction, he can record it. And this cannot be back calculated. He said, no, you have back calculated. How can you back calculate? It means that they have to admit that Indians had so advanced that they know the even gravitational forces also, because planetary motions are not just mean motions. It's the gravitational forces also affect. Then you must know that everything to get an exact date for this such conjunction that ever occurred. So this one.
Sri Siddhantha, Mayasura observed a rare conjunction of the sun, moon and all planets, except their nodes and apsides were in conjunction in Aries, Mesha, on new moon day of Chaitra month at the end of the 28th Krita Yuga. Software simulations using the JPL Horizons ephemeris system established that such conjunction on Chaitra Shukla Pratipada occurred only once in the last 16,000 years. That is, on 22nd February 6778 BCE. Evidently, Mayasura had personally observed this conjunction in 6778 BCE and referred to this conjunction as an epoch for his Surya Sidhhantha. In the 57th verse of chapter 1, Mishado means that sun was in the first degree of Aries, and Madhyagataha means sun was in the middle of this conjunction of planets. The simulation shows that Venus, Saturn and Moon were located east of the sun, whereas Mercury, Mars and Jupiter were located west of the sun. The sun was in the first degree of Aries and in the middle of this 26-degree conjunction of all planets. The conjunction perfectly matches with the description given in the Surya Sidhhantha. This rare conjunction occurred only once in the last 16,000 years. This establishes that Mayasura wrote Surya Sidhhantha in 6778 BCE, and the calendar of Surya Sidhhantha completes 8,800 years in the year 2022. Sri Siddhantha.
So this I made this 22 minutes documentary. I will ask Prasad to share with you. This I have made this in 2022 because that was the year when 8,800 years were completed. Now 8,002 years we can say, 2024. So based on this, the concept of Yuga and Chatur Yuga. So this from Vedic era to till this end of the Krita Yuga, we used to follow 5-year Yuga and 20-year Chatur Yuga. Now what happened after this Mayasura Surya Sidhhantha, now the entire Indian astronomy was revolutionized. Because they say that if you are following 5 and this 5-year Yuga, you cannot reconcile perfectly. That intercalation is not good. You have to add one more motion. That is Jupiter motion, Jovian cycle, that is 12-year cycle. The 12-year cycle was not Vedic, it is actually Mayasura introduced. That's why कुंभ मेला 12 साल में जो एक बार होता है, ये वहाँ की परंपरा है. तो ये now 12 become your infinitesimal, that unit 12. Now based on that you have to calculate. That's why the Yuga length has been increased from 5 to 1200, so that your intercalation method can be perfect. So actually Indians were looking for a perpetual calendar, not just doing every time corrections will be a problem. But from Vedic era to till date, we had more than 10,000 or 14,000 years. We never did any irrational reforms in the calendar the way the Gregorian reforms have been made. You suddenly deleted 13 days or 11 days out of the calendar. So this was because we followed the moon motion is the basis for the month, and solar motion is the basis for the year. Now you can intercalate a month or delete a month, add a day or delete a day. Adhika masa, kshaya masa, adhika tithi, kshaya tithi. These are the only concepts. This is the only way we used to correct our calendar. But in that also, having a consensus, more scientific basis, we wanted to be longer because it's not exactly 12 years, Jovian cycle. It is 11 years, some fractions are there. How to account for those fractions? These are all led to a bigger Yuga lengths are required. So now we need to understand how history got trivialized due to this Yuga length got increased. But human history is only limited to the years. But when you have increased the calendrical cycles as an astronomical cycles, now slowly we started believing that probably Rama may have lived 9 lakhs years ago. It's not, it is actually 1200 years. Then later what happened? We increased to 12,000 because we wanted a much more accuracy. Thereafter 12,000 was multiplied by 360, that led to 43 lakhs 20,000 years is the Yuga cycles. This is the reason why after Mahabharata era, the Kali Yuga is still continuing, because you are thinking that it should last for 4 lakhs 32,000 years. Otherwise, Rigvedic era, it was only 5 years Yuga. Even after this, only 1200 years. Later, that Yuga length got increased. So the evolution of Yuga cycles, especially the calendrical and historical, then astronomical. If we can differentiate, then we can understand the true historicity of Ramayana and the exact date. So now I have explained that conjunction, that Surya Sidhhantha. Based on that, we will get the end of the Krita Yuga. Then we have a 1200 years Treta Yuga, that is 6777 BC to 5577 BCE. And the last century is 56772 to 577 BC. This is the 100 years of Ramayana era, where we have to fix the exact absolute dates of Ramayana events, this last century of Ramayana era. And another scientific evidence, if you go back to, because in Ramayana it is clear Sri Lanka was an island. Okay, this was the reason why they were trying to build a setu, a Rama Setu. It is meant, it's a Dvipa, Sri Lanka. But if you go back to 6200 BC or 7000 BC, Sri Lanka was not even an island. It was almost part of Tamil Nadu. Because presently there is a 6 or 7 meters, even today, 7 meter, 8 meter height, the sea level. But if you simulate backwards, you go 10,000 BC, that area you can easily walk into Sri Lanka, 7,000 BC. So there are 3 major pulses. First is the sea level studies, the sea level rise studies. There are 3 major pulses: pulse 1A, pulse 1B, pulse 1C. This Rama Setu area got submerged only during the pulse 1C that took place somewhere 6200 BC to 5600 BC. So during the Ramayana era, during high tide, the water used to come in between that India and Sri Lanka, that Rama Setu area, because that was the probably highest range existed between those two areas. So that 15 to 16 kilometer area used to submerge during high tide. So during Ramayana era, it was felt that because you are going into enemy territory, in a war, you may have to take some back steps, then where you will go, and who will give you the logistic support to the entire army. Rameshwaram se jana tha. Sri Lanka is actually enemy territory. I don't think Ravana's army or their people will give any logistic support to Sri Rama's army. So that's why strategically it was important. So what they did, simple, during low tide period, they have filled up, because it's an open sea, in a high tide maybe 2 feet, 3 feet water may have, so you have to only raise the land level by 1 meter and 1.5 meter. That's all. This was the not, they haven't erected a big pillars and then flyover kuch banaya hua, aisa kuch nahi tha. It's only land filling, the same thing has been explained. If you see this map, this is actually a bathymetric map of the area between Sri Lanka and Rameshwaram. Hardly that 6 meter or somewhere in 10 meter. And one more thing I want to explain. This line, if you see, this is actually paleo channel of a river. You have heard about Tamraparani river, and Sri Lanka was called a Tamraparani Dvipa. Why? Because even today Tamraparani river is there in Tamil Nadu, but it presently flows into Bay of Bengal. But once upon a time, this river used to flow along with the Ramasetu area, and that river used to flow into Sri Lanka. So that this was the reason why Sri Lanka was called Tamraparani Dvipa. So those memories exist even today. Entire Buddhist literature, they call Sri Lanka as a Tamraparani Dvipa, because Tamraparani river used to flow. That paleo channel is still archaeology, even marine archaeologists have the satellite image also, you can see those paleo channels. This was the Tamraparani river. So the period is 6000 5600 BC, exactly this was that. This gives you a band. Ramayana era can't be dated beyond 6200 BC, and you can't date after 5000, because even land filling is a difficult if you come later also. You need only very shallow waters to do that land filling. You can't do in a high seas. And one more, we can reconcile it with the Tamil Sangam records. Sorry. According to the Tamil chronology, one is the Yuga Chronology. Tamil literature exactly maintained as per their this Pandyan dynasty years. Okay. Then Madurai, this was the earliest capital city of the Pandyan dynasty. So they say the then Madurai was the capital city up to 4400 years. Later it submerged into sea. Then they have shifted it to Kavatapuram. Almost 3700 years it was a so this 3700 years was the capital city. And Valmiki Ramayana is referring to Kavatapuram as the city of Pandyas. Okay. It means Ramayana took place during the second Sangam period, that is 6826 to 3126 BC. And this is the third Sangam period. So this is a kind of a, we can say generally, that word I don't want to use, but generally historians use it. This is the secular chronology. You are actually corroborating a different timelines maintained, because in Tamil Nadu, instead of Yuga chronology, they just kept the record of thousands of years, more than 10,000 years history of Pandyan dynasty, but they kept the chronology based on the capital cities. because then Madurai was somewhere closer to the sea when sea level rose due to the melting of glaciers and others. Then Madurai was finally submerged. Then they shifted to Kavatapuram. Kavatapuram also submerged. Then finally shifted to the modern Madurai city.
What is the Sangam period?
Sangam, it starts 11,200 BC onwards to till 13th century BC. Thereafter, another 200 years or 300 years, a Sangam period is there. Then you have Kalabhras. Thereafter, then again Chola, Chera, Pandya, their dynasties. This one.
Sangam of what?
Huh?
Sangam of what?
No. This is just Sangam means kind of a meeting. During those days, Agastya used to convene a meeting of poets or learned people. They used to, every year they used to convene in the capital city of the Pandyas, and they used to debate and present their research papers or poetry or what. This is called a Sangam. It's a kind of a meeting. And one more astronomical reference. Now we have this that Yuga, Treta Yuga. Then the last century is 5600 to 5677 to 58. Now how to arrive at an absolute date? So there are many planetary positions are cyclical. Here there is a one reference when after entire survey has been done, Hanuman has gone and he found out that Sita is captive in Sri Lanka, the Ravana. So now they all prepared, ready to move from Kishkindha to invade Sri Lanka. Okay. Now that time Lakshmana is actually telling to Rama, saying that there is a Mula Nakshatra. In the Mula Nakshatra, one comet is there. And since Ravana is born in Mula Nakshatra, so that's why this is a bad omen for him. So certainly he is going to face his death. He is predicting using that. Now, if we can simulate, because references of observations of a comet in a particular nakshatra is only possible if you are generally looking at the Halley's comet, because Halley's comet it has a cycle which we can even do. Others are just come in a particular area and then they vanish. So many references related to a nakshatra, probably they are actually referring to the observation of Halley's comet. When I have simulated it, the date comes to 22nd August, 3rd September 5635 BCE. This was the period that apparent magnitude was 2.35. It was actually, any human being can easily observe it. And the dates also exactly matches, because in Ramayana the dates also mentioned when Sri Rama ordered the Vanar Sena to move from Kishkindha towards Lanka. Because it's not just an observation, you have to match the lunar dates also mentioned, that both have to match it. So this one I have used the Stellarium, the version 19. Later there is in astronomical simulations in the software, there are two ideologies. First is you simply last 3-4 cycles of the orbital cycles of Halley's comet, then you mathematically simulate, or you just find out the Halley's comet observations in the Chinese records and in the Babylonians, then you try to match those. So there are two different ways, but I found the mathematical simulation is much accurate then, because the Chinese observation or this Babylonian observations, and absolute dates is the biggest problem. First you have to correct the chronology, then find out an absolute date. But mathematical simulation is much more simpler, because you have last 500 years you have a real observations. Based on that, if you can simulate backwards, then you may get a better answer than this historical dates, because the dates itself objective means you cannot fix the absolute dates for the past observations. So this is what somewhere 27th August. Based on this, because 5635 BCE is the year in which Sri Rama invaded the Sri Lanka, means his 14th year of Vanavasa. Okay, so he left Ayodhya for Vanavasa when he was at 25 years old, then go back to 25 years, so 5674 BCE. So 3rd February 5674 BCE, that is the Chaitra Shukla Navami, this was the date for the Sri Rama's. Based on that, you can easily arrive all absolute dates for the various events. The birth date of Sri Rama, birth date of Mata Sita, then you have the Vivaha Panchami, when he left for Vanavasa at the age of 25 years. Then this is how you can work out absolute dating. So that Halley's Comet observation gives you a perfect day to how to decode the absolute dating of events occurred during the Ramayana. Okay, this gives the dating. Now the historicity. So we'll be little more doubting Thomas kind of a concept we have. So how can you build a Rama Setu over 100 yojanas in 5 days? How you could do it? Okay. Second, what is this Pushpaka Vimana? You're all walking around by foot and say you have traveled Pushpaka Vimana. Where is the historicity? Then there is a reference that Sri Rama reigned for 11,000 years. How can a human being can live 11,000 years? Then Hanuman and Jambavan, they are not human beings at all. Okay? One by one we'll take it up. This 100 yojanas, if you refer it to the ancient Vedic text in Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, there is a word called Ashvina. Ashvina was a bigger unit of measurement than yojana. The yojana equal to 13 kilometer is only Mahabharata, post-Mahabharata standard, not before that. A yojana was equal to 140, 160, what actually in the Greek terms a state is a 140, 150 meters. If you multiply that, it's only 14 to 16 kilometers, that's all. And if you do the sea level simulations also, during that time, when the area between Ramasetu means Rameshwaram and that Talaimanar area, it's only, presently it is the 30 or 40 kilometers. But if you simulate, it's only 10 to 15 kilometers is the area was used to get submerged during that time. What they did, only land filling. Even you have some 10,000 people as an army. You just collected the first wood and rocks and even whatever the material available. Just land filling. Every day they filled up to 3 kilometers. It is possible within 5 days. It has nothing to do with. If you are thinking that I am building some kind of a flyover on a high sea, then it is impossible. Even today having so much monster machines, okay. So this yojana word is actually misleading. Wherever you are taking only 13 kilometers, then it comes 1300 kilometers, okay. Sri Lanka and India के बीच में 1300 किलोमीटर का distance ही नहीं है. So that yojana, this Ashvina is very, very important because during Rigvedic period, the Ashwa, one day the distance it can travel, that distance was named as an Ashwi. And yojana was one of the subset of that. Later, since Ashwa became extinct, Rigvedic, this I will discuss very later because the Rigvedic Ashwa and the Central Asian Ashwa is not the same. I don't know how many of you have heard about that Shivalik horse, the Equus sivalensis and Equus caballus. Equus sivalensis has the 34 ribs, where the Equus caballus, the Central Asian horse, has the 36 ribs. And Rigveda refers to 34 ribs Ashwa, and this Ashwa became extinct at least 8000 BC itself. This was the reason why Ashwamedha was banned, because there was no Ashwa, he was available. After that Holocene, many species went extinct. So this is the Yojana problem solved. Now the Vimana. How many have ever read Shilpa Shastra? And if you see, the temple dome was called Vimana. Even today, the those who study civil architecture, especially in the ancient text, the Vimana is actually temple dome. Why temple dome was named as the Vimana? Because Pushpaka Vimana was a hot air balloon. I am actually trying to reconstruct this using the DRDO, but that's my secret project. So using that, this only natural silk, I made all studies, natural silk can be a very good material as an alternative to the nylon. So, and the burner, any brass copper, use the Karpura Thailam, is the turpentine oil. Karpura Thailam can be used. And many ancient technologies can't be recreated. You have a musical steps in South India. You have so much of knowledge today. You replicate it, impossible. You can't do it because certain skills can't be replicated. And the way the flight of Pushpaka Vimana explained in Ramayana is like a hot air balloon. Utpapata Vihayasam, like a helicopter, like a hot air balloon. This is how they have explained. And Mahaswaram, it used to make a lot of sound. Yes, when you that hot air balloon only. Now, navigation, how they did vertical control and propulsion. Probably they harnessed the wind power the way the ships and others they used to travel. And every day you has to travel somewhere 150 kilometers because in the early morning, even you have a 10-15 kilometers per hour speed. At 10 hours you can travel and you come down and then this is how within 18 days you can reach 2000 kilometers. That's not a big deal. And during that time, if you see southern winds, how towards the north side, if you study it, it is perfectly possible during that period. So it's only hot air balloon, and it's not only in India. There are numerous references in the not only ancient Bharata Ramayana it is mentioned, and even King Salva, he used the Vimana while fighting with Sri Krishna. Ancient Persia also there is a reference that Khusro in the Avesta, he actually traveled from Persia to Xinjiang, but he met with an accident. And if you know ancient Greece, have you heard in the Hellespont in the Turkey? What is that Hellespont? Hella. The brother and sister, they were traveling in a hot air balloon. She was just looking down and she fell down out of this. And that place was called Hellespont. And he actually crossed entire Black Sea using the hot air balloon. So this, it was well known because even during army, all Chinese army, they used it. So Vimana travel was actually hot air balloon travel. It existed and it's not impossible at all. Then the duration of Rama's reign, why 11,000 years? That same you go back to the Yuga. When Yuga lengths have been, you have artificially increased to get an accuracy in your calendrical calculations. That led to the misconception that now how to do, then you have to do, every reign has to be increased similarly to make it. That's why 11,000. 11,000 divided by 360, hardly 31 years. So 39 years old or 40 years he became a king, another 31 years he reigned. Later he willfully left the world in Sarayu River. So mostly 70. So his entire lifetime can be mapped 56742 to 5603 BC. Now Hanuman and Jambuvan. The Hanuman is the Vrishakapi, 11 Rudras. During the early Rigvedic period, the 12 Adityas, 8 Vasus, 11 Rudras. They were the brothers. There was a Vrishakapi was a Rudra. So that's why Hanuman ko Rudravatar kaha jata hai. So he was the descendant of Rudra, Kapi. So Kapi, so he became the Kapi community. The Vrishakapi was the progenitor of the Kapi community. The Kapi word, what happened from Vedic era, when the Laukik Sanskrit, the Kapi became synonymous to Vanara. Okay. Now, after Bharata Natya Shastra, what was the mode of entertainment in every village? It's only Sanskrit Natakas. Now, a poet, a dramatist, एनी कैरेक्टर स्टेज पे अगर उसको स्टेज पे आके बताने पड़े कि हम सो एंड सो कैरेक्टर प्लेइंग एंड देन ही स्टार्ट डिलीवरिंग डायलॉग्स, इट विल नॉट गिव दैट रसोत्पत्ति. The audience must see the character and easily understand with it. Then these Sanskrit poets started depicting based on the name. Kapi means Vanara, they started depicting Hanuman as a monkey. And Shukacharya, they started showing face of the Rishi as a parrot. Hayagriva, they started. This is how historical persons got mythologized. Due to these are all Sanskrit natakas. Then later, even today, if I say, if you want to just imagine yourself how Rama looked, you will only say Arun Govil because you have seen only Rama series, but he was like an Arun Govil. No, because the visuals create so much. That's why we all the Ganesha, because Gajanana, because his face was bigger than a normal human being, so we call Gajanana. Later, as a Sanskrit poet, I said Gaja means a elephant, Anana means a face. So let us make a elephant-faced person. So then now they asked how a human being can survive. Then we started some stories and other. So this is the real problem. How? Because in a tradition, because once few generations started believing, even an educated person can't deny that. So this is actually historical persons got mythologized due to the Sanskrit dramas and others. So that's why the Hanuman was not because Sri Rama was actually after talking 1 hour, he tells Lakshmana, I'm talking to this guy since last 1 hour, but he has not yet mispronounced even a single word. It means he read all Vedas, he read many Sanskrit Vyakaranas. I don't think a monkey can do it. And one more I'll ask you. An entire, okay, they are all one another, but not even Tara, the wife of her. All ladies were human beings, the way they depicted. Means कोई बंदरी थी नहीं, केवल बंदरी थे. So what happens, the way the history gets mythologized due to these dramas, that is the real reason. It's not that the, and if you Jaina Ramayana, there are perfectly they're human beings. They never talk about Hanuman as a Vanara at all. And then Jambavan is a rickshaw. Rickshaw is the name of a one king, and he was the progenitor of the rickshaw community. And Sri Krishna married Jambavati. It means what? He married a bear. No, this is the real problem. How the historical characters got mythologized. That we need to. This is the Nirakshira Viveka we need to adopt, and just certain historical legends got mythologized does not mean that you reject the historicity. This is just a doubting Thomas syndrome. If that is, then how can a virgin mother can produce a Christ? But what happens? Few historical persons, because they contributed a lot, they became a divine person. Then we started worshipping. Once we start worshipping, because bhakti must have a mystery also, and you will create an imaginary world. When you are in a bhakti, you create an imaginary world, you exaggerate, you mythologize it. But since certain imaginary events have been incorporated into the history, you start rejecting historicity. It's ये बहुत बड़ा अन्याय है इतिहास के साथ. So this is based on that work on this chronology entire. This is the long subject, so I'll just stop it here. So this is how my only reason. Whenever you are thinking that some mythological exaggerations are actually incorporated into historical text, that does not mean that the history never existed. This is true. We can reconstruct our Indian calendars from Vedic era to till date, then perfectly arrive at an absolute date, then reconcile with the modern various other scientific evidences also. Based on that, and the genealogy available presently, from Rama onwards, more than 100 genealogies are the Vansh Parampara and many things are available. And all the places mentioned in Ramayana, or even today, the sacred places you can visit every day in those places. So it's history. तो राम आस्था में ही नहीं है, इतिहास में भी है. Thank you.